Hey everyone, welcome to a crisis analysis the Pentagon would rather you didn't see. The USS Gerald R. Ford isn't just a ship, it's a statement of sovereignty. Costing $13 billion and taking nearly 2 decades to complete, it should be the pinnacle of human engineering. But as you watch this video, the pride of the U.S. Navy is limping towards Suda Bay, Greece. It wasn't hit by a Russian hypersonic missile, nor by a swarm of Iranian drones. The largest aircraft carrier in history is internally collapsing. Hundreds of sailors are sleeping on mess tables without clean clothes, and the sewage system has turned the ship into a sanitary nightmare. But the most terrifying fact is this: the Navy has opened a sabotage investigation. The fire that crippled the giant may have been started by American hands. What happens when the world's most highly trained crew decides enough is enough? On March 12, 2024, the Ford was operating in the Red Sea under Operation Epic Fury. Suddenly, the fire alarm blared through the main laundry. CENTCOM issued a quick note saying it was a minor fire, with 2 minor injuries and the propulsion system intact. A convenient lie. The reality, leaked by sailors on board, was hell. The fire burned for 30 hours straight. Flames traveled through the ventilation ducts, turning the living quarters into smoke chambers. 200 sailors were treated for smoke inhalation. 100 bunks turned to ashes. 600 men lost the only place they had to rest. The ship became so deprived of basic resources that the Navy had to do something unprecedented: requisition 1,000 mattresses from the USS John F. Kennedy, a ship still under construction, and rush them to sea. Without laundry and without beds, the Ford ceased to be a weapon of war and became a floating refugee camp. Why would anyone sabotage their own ship? The answer lies in the calendar. The crew of the Ford set sail from Norfolk in June 2025 for a routine 7-month mission. They crossed the Atlantic, visited Norway, and trained with NATO. But fate had other plans. In October, the Secretary of War ordered the ship to cross the ocean back to the Caribbean to hunt down Nicolas Maduro. The Ford was the centerpiece in the capture of the Venezuelan leader in January 2026. Exhausted, the sailors received the news that they would finally return home in March. Euphoria swept across the ship. 12 hours later, the blow came. The order was reversed. The Ford was to cross the Atlantic for the 3rd time, traverse the Mediterranean, and enter the war against Iran. The return date was now perhaps May. This would total 11 months at sea, the longest deployment of an aircraft carrier since Vietnam. When you break the promise to bring a soldier back to his family, you break his fighting spirit. If mental exhaustion wasn't enough, daily life on the Ford became degrading. The ship uses the VCHT system, a vacuum sewer adapted from the cruise industry. It saves water with narrow pipes, but what works for tourists doesn't work for 5,000 military personnel in combat for months on end. Reports from 2020 already warned that the system is an undersized disaster. In 2025, 205 failures were recorded in just 4 days. A simple valve coming loose drops the vacuum in an entire zone. Sailors report waiting 45 minutes to get a working toilet. To unclog the system, the Navy spends $400,000 on specialized acid flushes that can only be done in port. Imagine the fury of a sailor who, after 12 hours on duty, can't even use the toilet or take a decent shower. The $13 billion technology was defeated by a clogged toilet. Sabotage is nothing new in the U.S. Navy. During the Vietnam War, the SOS, or Stop Our Ships movement, saw thousands of sailors sign petitions and in extreme cases throw giant bolts into reduction gears to prevent ships from sailing.
More recently, in 2020, the USS Bonham Richard was completely destroyed by an arson fire in San Diego, a billion-dollar loss caused by a frustrated sailor. The USS Gerald R. Ford has electromagnetic catapults that can launch jets every minute, but it failed the most basic lesson of all: human logistics. If investigations confirm sabotage, the Pentagon will have to admit that its greatest weapon was defeated by the desperation of its own people. The Ford may have the best nuclear reactors in the world, but no machine works if the people operating it feel abandoned by the chain of command. Do you think the United States Navy has lost control in managing its crews? Is sabotage justifiable under inhumane conditions? Leave your technical comment below. I want to know your opinion. If you want to continue receiving analyses that mainstream media avoid showing, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Strategy is our map. Until the next update.